I'm gonna be honest, I never used my FujiFilm X-Pro3, but in 2023 I want to give this camera another chance, but I needed a fresh perspective. So I asked my friends at B&H and Fujifilm for some recommendations on what lens would get me the most out of this camera. Now it obviously depends on what you like to photograph, but for me, I want the X-Pro3 to be the perfect everyday carry camera. So B&H sponsored today's video and they sent me over the 18mm f2 lens from Fujifilm so I could try it out, give this camera another chance, and see if the Fujifilm X-Pro3 can finally become my perfect EDC camera. All right, y'all, we're out here in Covington, Georgia. We have the Fujifilm 18 f2. We were driving in today and we noticed this monstrosity. Check this out. So Alec explained to me what this is. You guys know he's the car expert. This is what, a Bravus kit?
Yeah, well, complete Bravus.
Complete Bravus
G850.
G850, which apparently is like a ridiculous car. So we're gonna start our photo day here. I'm trying to get myself in the mindset of a film photographer today. It's been a while since I did photos like this. I'm a little bit rusty, but let's see what we can come up with. All right, so right now we're walking up to this fruit stand that I've made pictures at a lot in the past. For whatever reason, I can't quite figure it out. Maybe it's just, I don't know, maybe I suck at photography or something like that.
Maybe.
But I thought it would be a good spot to test out some of the Fujifilm colors. It's been a long time since I used this camera. Everyone raves about the color science. So I figure what's better than a bunch of fruit laying around in the sun. Fujifilm X-Pro3, I don't know when it got so popular. It's kind of funny having a camera that's like rare because it's sold out everywhere. In the past, I haven't used it as much because the lenses that I had were a little bit too big, but this one is basically perfect for everyday walk around situations like this. If my pants weren't so tight and I wasn't such a dork, I could fit it in my back pocket, but that is not an actuality right now. All right, so I'm trying, like I said, to put myself in the mindset of a film photographer today. Film people love this. Pan over, show them what we got.
Two dumpsters.
We got a stop sign, we got yellow poles and an arrow on the ground. So yo, this is sick. We got this old Chevy in here. Peter McKinnon would love this. Only problem is it's in a shadow and this is all like a really bright midday sun. So we're gonna try our best. So I know I was like joking around about being in the mindset of a film photographer, but essentially what I'm trying to do is like a scene like this where you have a bunch of different compositional elements. I'm just trying to use the lines, use the scene, and make something that visually is appealing, even though it's just a picture of some chairs and some surfboards leaning against the building. I feel like certain film photographers, especially on YouTube, are so good at this, and it's definitely a mindset that you kind of gotta like work yourself into. It's definitely not easy. So that was definitely a fun day of photography using the X-Pro3, and after 2 years, I finally understand why this camera is so popular, and I have a lot of thoughts about it. So for me, I bought this camera to be a rangefinder style camera exactly like this. I love rangefinder cameras because they're great for the things that I like to photograph. Street photography, everyday photos, lifestyle photos, but the lenses that I had were less than stellar for those things. They were amazing optically, but they took away of the convenience that a rangefinder style camera gives you. This 16-1.4, it's really big on the camera. This 35 f2, it's pretty big on the camera, but this is essentially perfect. So shout out to B&H for finally giving me something that allows me to use this camera the way that I intended to use it. And for me, I'm really excited to be able to just throw this thing in a small bag like this one, take it out for street photography, throw it in my car when I go to the gym or when I go out with friends, and have access to a camera that I can essentially use for everything. I'm gonna do a street photography video pretty soon, and and this is going to be my setup, so make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for that. But the interesting thing about the X-Pro3 and the realization that I had is the reason this camera is so popular is because there's a lot of photographers just like me who want this rangefinder style camera, but they also want something that can achieve a professional result with clients or with any project they're working on. And because of Fujifilm's lens lineup, you have access to lenses that can give you that result on this body that essentially does both for you. So take off this pancake lens right here and now throw this 16-1.4 on, and you have an extremely high quality professional camera on the same body. So you basically get the best of both worlds, which was something that I never realized until today. So a few other things that I wanted to mess with on this camera that I did outside the video was experimenting with the JPEGs. I've seen videos where people talk about the film recipes and how you can really customize the JPEGs of this camera, and it was appealing to me because I figured in this social media driven world, if I'm making content for my Instagram story or something like that, it would be really nice to be able to just make a photo straight out of camera and post it and share it and have it look customized to what my style is. So I did some experimenting with the JPEGs on here. I tried out a bunch of different formulas. I changed the color chrome effect. I tried different film simulations, and in my opinion, the photos look cool. They were a little bit dull for me. I think I got to go in and tweak the settings a little bit more. I found that I enjoyed the raw files a lot more because of how customizable they were. But for me, I think this is something I want to continue to experiment with more, and it's going to be very versatile for a lot of people. I'm sure there's ways to essentially emulate film with this camera, which is something that I want to do. So if you have any tips, let me know in the comments down below. Now, another thing that I was curious about was the color science in Fujifilm. Everyone raves about it. I'm the type of person who struggles to like look at one photo and say the colors on this are better than another camera. For the most part, I think colorful photos look colorful, but everyone talked about how malleable the raw files on the Fujifilm cameras were, so that's why I went to that fruit stand and messed with the colors there, and I really enjoyed the result I was able to get, especially when I pushed the edits on the photos to more of a film style edit. I was able to achieve a nice vintagey look that still had a lot of pop and color on the fruit, so I definitely enjoyed that. Also, something else that I wish was a possibility with this, but it's not, is the optical viewfinder on the X-Pro3. I haven't used it in a while, but when we were out doing street photos and doing more film style stuff, I wanted to try it out. But at 18 millimeters, the film lines that you get in the optical viewfinder on this camera are not available. Essentially, it's too wide. But that is one really cool feature of this Fujifilm camera, is the fact that you can get frame lines. So let's say you are shooting on this 35 f2, you can see everything outside the frame, and it really helps with composition, and it also helps with motion and movement coming into your shot. You can see when someone is walking or some motion is happening outside of your frame, and then capture it exactly where it needs to be, where when you're using the EVF, you're kind of blind to what's happening outside of the scene that you're going to end up capturing. So that's a feature I really like on this, and I wish there was more capabilities with it with a lens like this. But if you have anything higher, I think, than 20 something, maybe it's 27, you can take advantage of that. Now, the final thing that really piqued my curiosity on this camera is the screen being hidden. I've went bad on this before in the past, and it's still not exactly my favorite feature, but it just goes to the style of photography that I like. Sometimes I like to be able to look at the screen based on lighting conditions, but I think if you're a purist out there and you really dial in those JPEG settings, you can achieve a film-like result with this digital camera. I mean, you can just make your photos, not even look at them, and then come home and have the surprise of all the film recipes working on your JPEG, and I think that's really cool. All in all, after revisiting this camera, I gotta say I totally understand why it's so popular. Today, people are really interested in film style photos. Film is getting more and more expensive, and with a camera like this, you can essentially mimic film, but you save all the money that now comes with the expense of film. Let me know your thoughts, any tips you have in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on this lens. Shout out to B&H for sending me this 18mm f2. I'll link it in the description down below if you want to check it out for yourself. This is something that I want to experiment with more.